So welcome everyone. Thank you all for your patience. We were having a couple of technical issues. Hopefully you guys were able to log into Zoom okay. And we are praying for a smooth presentation today, but want to welcome you all to our Lunch and Learn today. My name is Tara Eggleston Stewart. I'm one of the co-chairs for MRPA's Training and Education Committee. So we have about 60 people registered from agencies across the state, and we're looking forward to a fantastic training today. Today's session, Sensory Pathways in Parks and Programs, will be led by Corey Smith and Catherine Travato. But before we get started, I just want to remind the group of a couple of things. Please mute yourselves unless you're answering a question that is posed by our presenters. This will hopefully be an interactive session and you're encouraged to participate where appropriate. We also ask that you turn off your video cameras so attention can be focused on today's presentation. This is a CEU eligible session. To apply for and earn CEU credit, participants must attend the entire session and complete and submit the post-session evaluation. On the evaluation, you must include your name and email address associated with your session registration for today. Once the evaluation is received, MRPA will compare the evaluation to our participant list and send the CEU code to participants via email. Online evaluations for those seeking CEU credit must be submitted by this Friday, January 29th by 5 p.m. Again, it's important that you attend the entire session and submit the post-session evaluation, including your name and email address. Without this information, MRPA will be unable to issue your CEUs. And with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our speakers today, Corey Smith and Catherine Travato.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be very honest. This is my first virtual training. So everyone just disappeared and I only see my presentation. So we're winning. But my name is Cat Travato. I'm a certified therapeutic recreation specialist. I currently am an inclusion coordinator at Arlington County Parks and Recreation.
So Kat, we can't see your screen. I don't know if anyone else can see it. There we go.
It says it's sharing.
It's back.
It's up. Okay. There you
go.
Yay, people in the chat can see it.
Okay, good. I can't see anything. It's great.
Hi, everybody. I'm Corey Smith. For those of you who don't know me, I am an inclusion coordinator with the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, Prince George's County Department of Parks and Recreation.
Ooh. I hit buttons. All right. So today we're going to talk to you about sensory pathways. Sensory pathways are a series of purposely designed exercises and movements that are gauged to release some energy, release some stress, and help with self-regulation. Sensory pathways can also help individuals develop or refine various skills such as gross motor skills, balance, and coordination. And we found them to be really successful in a lot of our parks and programs. One of the things that we're going to talk about today is how we use these sensory pathways to help with dysregulation. And in this image is just a couple of fun sensory pathways that we have placed around our parks in Arlington County. So I wanted to take a moment to really talk about what dysregulation is. And to us, dysregulation is when there is internal or external stimuli that causes some internal chaos within us that prevents us from doing what we need to do, whether that's focus on a task or meet expectations. I'm sure that we could all think about an instance where we're trying to focus and get something done. We're trying to listen to someone talking to us and our brain is in 10,000 directions. We're trying to sit at our desk to complete some work, but we just keep getting distracted by various things and can't focus. Or, you know, we're in some sort of like emotionally intense situation and we have trouble making decisions. In each of those scenarios, it is very possible that we were dysregulated. And I bet if we think about it, we then take some sort of action in order to help ourselves regulate. Okay, so dysregulation. We've all had moments of where we have potentially been dysregulated. Something internally is off its homeostasis, if you will. And we've done things to help us re-regulate. whether that's take a little break on Facebook. None of us do that, right? Or go get a cup of coffee, go have a quick chat at the water cooler, whatever it is, play around to solitaire. Okay, these are secretly all things I do. Feel free to try them out if you want. But each one of those things essentially gives us time for our internal regulation system to like calm itself back down so that we can get back on track. But we have to remember that not all of our participants who we interact with have that capability, whether they have access to their coping skills that they use to help regulate, or they may not have built those skills yet, or those are still developing skills within them. So as recreation providers and people that want to help people recreate or do whatever they do in their lives, it is our job to identify when people are entering a dysregulation phase and to help them. Everyone can see this image, right? We're on the right side because I'm about to talk about the image, right? We're good?
Yeah,
Okay.
we should be good.
So when it comes to dysregulation, it's all about time. So this is my dysregulation hourglass, if you will. And up at the top, we're ready to participate. We're in the green, good to go zone. We are regulated. And as signs of dysregulation start to bubble up, and we'll talk about in a second of what causes dysregulation and what some of those signs are, we have to understand that our intervention options to help us get back to and stay on track, as well as the individual's ability to regulate, decreases. And it can become like a sliding scale, a sliding scope into crisis situation if we don't apply an intervention early. I'm a proactive poly, and proactivity is always my first go-to approach when dealing with dysregulation. Now, of course, if unfortunately we're not able to get an intervention in place and we do reach a crisis situation, there's nothing that we can do at this point other than ride out a crisis situation. And when I'm talking about crisis situation, I'm talking about the individual has no control over their body and senses, and nothing that you do can help them turn the corner and get back to the green zone. We just got to wait it out at some point. That's why it's so important to get those proactive things in place so that we can avoid this crisis situation. And then, of course, as you're coming out of the crisis situation, you're going to have some crisis fatigue. Going through all of that internally and externally in your fight or flight responses is exhausting. So you're going to be tired. So just because someone seems calm in the moment does not necessarily mean that that they're going to be ready to utilize a coping skill and get back on track. So we have to really make sure until the person is ready to do that. Eventually, the person will become more open to interventions and then ready to process and participate. So, of course, we can get somebody back on track. We want to completely avoid the lower half of this hourglass, but in reality, we are going to experience the lower half of the hourglass. So what can we do in order to better stay at the top part is what we're going to focus on today. So next slide, maybe. Oh, good. So causes of dysregulation. Dysregulation can be caused by external things that happen outside of our body and internal factors. Some internal factors are our body functions: hunger, tired, sick, some sort of emotion, hormones, illness, somebody's inability to communicate for various reasons, fear or confusion or anxiety. I know that a lot of the participants that we've been working with, we've seen a drastic increase in anxiety driven behaviors in our programs. So really being able to proactively help support participants through those moments is really important. And then any other unmet need that isn't listed here that is happening internally. External factors, things that we know: crowds, noise, light, temperature, staff or peer interactions. Maybe they really wanted to get the attention of a staff individual and didn't get what they wanted there. Same thing with a peer. Maybe there was peer conflict. And then, of course, new environments. So all of these things that are happening internally and externally to our participants are causes of dysregulation. And if we can figure out what the cause of that dysregulation is, we can better target that and apply appropriate interventions to help those individuals successfully participate. Next slide, please. So next we're going to talk about some signs of dysregulation. If the slide ever wants to come up, you'll see various pictures of faces of people that may be not feeling their best life. There it is, feeling their best self at the moment. Dysregulation can appear in various different ways as depicted in these pictures. A lot of people just think that dysregulation is like the big emotions, like the anger, the yelling, the tantrums. But dysregulation can also show up as really excited, or it can show up as being non-compliant or shut down. So basically, you want to think of signs of dysregulation as anytime you see a participant who is off their game. So like they're feeling weird, that if you know them very well, they're like, this is not how they normally show up. Or a more general rule is if a person is not meeting your expectation and how they should participate in a program, there's something happening, because we are all capable of doing that in one way, shape, or form. And when that doesn't happen, there's some need that isn't being met, and we need to figure out what that need is so that we can proactively or reactively address the dysregulation. One of the things that helps address dysregulation is sensory input. So up next, Corey is going to talk about how sensory input can help with dysregulation. Over to you, Corey.
Thanks. So Tara, if you could advance to the next slide, please. This is going to be an image, great little visual of our different sensory systems within our body. So obviously our visual system, what we can see, our vestibular system is our balance and how we connect. Our tactile, what we can touch and what we can feel. Our olfactory, what we can taste. And I'm sorry, olfactory is what we can smell. Sorry. Our auditory, what we can hear, the sounds that we hear and how we process that. Our gastrory, what we taste. Our proprioception, our body awareness, where are we in space? Where are we in our physical environment? And so this is just a fun little visual to kind of connect all of those together. And so for this specific presentation, we're going to focus on the vestibular and the proprioceptive senses, which the sensory paths are going to provide benefits for. So Tara, if you could advance to the next slide, please. So again, another visual. I love these little visuals I found. And you'll have the PowerPoint in a PDF, and it gives you the link, not the link, but it shows you where we got these if you want to go and find them yourselves. There's also a lot of other great resources on this website as well. So these are some examples of how to meet the camper's needs or program participants. So for proprioception, you see they're doing exercises and they're bouncing and they're jumping and they're stretching. And for the gustory, they're, it's the crunching or chewing of gum or something within their mouth, something to chew on. Auditory, it's listening to some soothing sounds or some headphones or some music, or maybe it's not listening to anything and getting noise canceling headphones. The olfactory, it's that smell, so aromatherapy or lotions, washing your hands with a soap, the scent of the soap. For tactile, it's just the touching. We all use those fidgets and those manipulatives that we like to do. Finger painting is a fun one as well. Vestibular, this is where like they're bouncing or they're swinging. And then visual, if it's too much light, we're using sunglasses, or if we're adding extra light, kids like kids love to shine the flashlight in their face. Why they shine their flashlight in their face is beyond me, because it drives me crazy. But maybe they just like looking at the light. I don't know. So these are all examples. So with our sensory pathways, they provide the vestibular and the proprioceptive sensory input that our campers are seeking. So that feeling of dysregulation, it's been described as like a floating or not being able to connect in space. And so by engaging in proprioceptive movements, these movements physically connect us to our environment and help us figure out where we are in the physical space. The movements of stomping or pushing something or even crawling and stretching, you can feel these within your body and it helps you connect. It bounces you, like it just bounces you against your physical space. Even if you're not actually bouncing against anything, that movement and the sense of your motions against the physical environment. So this provides us all a sensory feedback. It engages our muscles and our bones to help anchor us to where we are in the physical space. And then the vestibular, it's our orientation to that space. So when we are, as a kid, I don't know if you ever still do this, but you go and you spin in a room and you just like spin and spin and spin until you get dizzy and you almost fall down and you're like, whoa, and you got to catch your balance for a minute. It's that's the vestibular. It's helping you come back to center, like a spinning coin. If you spin a coin on a table and it spins, and then when it finds its center, every once in a while it finds that little happy balance and it just stands there. But most of the time it finds its happy place just laying down. And that's where that coin is balanced. Tara, if you can advance to the next slide, please. So there we go. Okay. So if we were together in person, we would have set up a path and you would have gotten to explore this path and it would have been great and awesome and wonderful. Unfortunately, we're not. So we are going to do some activities together. So if everyone could turn on their cameras. Tara, I'm afraid to do this, but can we stop sharing for a minute and go into gallery view? Fingers crossed that we'll be able to share again. But if you can all turn on your cameras and if you're on a phone, set your phone somewhere where you have your hands free. If you're sitting down, go ahead and stand up, get to a place where you've got a little bit of space to move with us. Then we're going to shake it out. We're going to shake it out together. And I can't stand up and do this and present it at the same time. I would love to, but I will get so discombobulated. But thank you for the rest of you who are doing it with me. So I'm going to give you some tasks that I want you to complete with us. So take your hands and stretch them out, and then reach and grab a piece of coal, like you're in a coal mine. Grab a piece of coal, and you're going to bring it in front of you. And you're just gonna squeeze it super tight. And we're gonna try and turn that coal, we're gonna add the pressure to turn it into a shiny diamond. Or another example is like you're kneading bread. Like if you wanna knead the bread and you're kneading it into a ball. Okay, so that's one of our examples. And then next, pretend you're a dancer. So spin around a few times. You can do a pirouette if you're super fancy. I'm not that fancy, but there you go. I'm loving it. Thank you guys so much. You're doing great. And then you feel yourself come back to that center. So next, do some squats. So we're gonna like do a frog pose, because obviously when you're doing this with kids, you don't just want to say, okay, we're gonna do some squats now, right? We want to make it fun. So we're gonna do some frog leaps or some frog poses. So if you can squat down and leap back up. And you can do this 3 or 4 times. And then, reach up, stretch to the sun, reach to the sun as high as you can possibly get. See if you can touch the stars. It's like that saying, if you reach for the moon, if you miss, at least you land among the stars, right? And then some jumping jacks. I don't know about y'all. It snowed here in Bowie last night. So we've got we've got a little bit of snow outside. So we can do some standing up snow angels. And we can grab the snow if we want with our fingers and feel the cold and just imagine it shivering through our bodies. And then you got buzzing like a bee. So you make your arms buzz. Yeah. Buzz. You can make the buzz sound with your mouth. And so you feel it tingling in your mouth, right? You feel that bzzz. You feel your lips vibrating and your teeth vibrating. And you've got your arms as your little wings as you flap around. And then This one, if you've got space, find a wall, or like if you've got heavy furniture, you could push the furniture a little bit to make more space for yourself. If you want to reorganize your room later on today, right? Push everything out of the way and just reorganize. It's great.
Push a
but wall-
vacuum.
there you go. But you know, wall push-ups, pushing up against the wall and pushing back. It's great exercises, but it's also great input. And then finally, last but not least, you all did a great, wonderful job. So give yourselves a great big hug. You did so good. All right, thank you. Thank you all for joining in that with me. If anybody wants to put in the chat, or if you'd like to come off of mute for just a minute and tell us like how you feel. I forgot to ask you to think about how you were feeling at the beginning of that. But if anybody wants to come off chat and share anything, that would be great. Or just type it in the chat for us.
I know that after all of the technology kerfuffle that we went through at the beginning of this presentation, I was feeling a little dysregulated. And those exercises, I definitely feel more calm now, particularly that hand squeezing one. I was pretending that it was my computer.
And you're like, yes.
Hey,
Come on,
hey,
get it
Corey.
together. You can work. I know you can do it. I
Yeah.
feel much
Hey,
more
Corey.
relaxed.
Hey, Corey, it's Becky.
Hey.
I actually feel I felt silly but fun at the same time. And I feel like we're always so serious with stuff that when we got done, we gave ourselves that big hug and we felt goofy and happy and just almost sensed that relief was just gone of like just all the stress gone. So that was fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for participating. Great job. Yeah, Kelsey said her kids think she's gone nuts. Like, what's wrong with you? But she feels so much lighter. It's good to lighten her mood. And Mary loved the self-hug.
Yeah, and this is what sensory pathways do. They provide this goofy fun for anyone that participates in them, and they don't even know that you're throwing in some therapy in there that's going to help them regulate. It's like putting the vegetables in the pasta sauce. It can be our little secret, but amazing outcomes.
Yeah, and the greatest thing is you don't have to have a disability for this to be beneficial for you, right? So it's not just for our campers or our participants who need that sensory break. All of the kids can participate in this, and it's something they can all do together to be silly and play, and it's non-competitive. So Tara, if we can go back to the sharing of the slides. So our sensory paths can be something simple. They can just be chalk outside, drawing lines. My kids have decided that they love doing sensory paths. Rylan wants to go to the park and put down a sensory path for other kids to enjoy. So she likes to take her chalk and she'll go out there and just draw lines and she'll be like, this is what you're doing this time. They can be materials you already have in your supplies, paint or tape, paper that you cut out different shapes and things and post on the wall. You can see some examples here of things that we've done. The one on the left is a chalk path we've done outside in the parks. The two in the middle are from a sensory path that we put up at MRPA a couple of years ago in one of the hallways. And you can see where we cut out the letters. And so you can make it educational and fun also. And then the fun on the far right is one that we have installed at one of our community centers, and it's a spaceship or a outer space theme. So you want to be purposeful about it, right? You want to choose parks that people go to or community centers where you have programs. So you want to be intentional about where you're placing them, not just, you know, random places that nobody visits. Or community centers, your communities, you want to put them where the participants would benefit in their programs. So wherever you have programming is a great space for these. You could even put them in senior centers if you wanted and just modify the types of activities, because I bet the seniors would love doing these. I don't know, my seniors love the Zumba and they love the dancing and they love the movement activities. So a sensory path would be a great place for them just to have fun walking down the hallway. So for location, we chose parks throughout our department. We spread them out. You know, our county is huge. You know, we're a long county as well. So we kind of tried to spread it out to allow everybody to have opportunities. So we did one in the north, and then the next week maybe we went down south, and the next week we did the central area or something like that. so that all of our community residents would have an opportunity to find a park in their area that had a sensory path. We did our paths 1 to 2 times a week. And then we'll talk about marketing later, but we did a video with them as a teaser and put it out. So we'll talk about that a little bit coming up. When we were thinking about outdoor paths this summer, because we're not doing indoor programming in Prince George's County. I don't know about your other counties. I know Maryland's, we're one of those fun states. We're not really doing a whole lot. We're doing everything outside. So we are currently, all of our paths are outside at the moment. So we had to think about weather, and we always had a rain date planned in case it rained the day we wanted to do it. For us in Prince George's County, our kids are doing virtual learning, but on Wednesdays they have a half day, so they get out a little bit early. So we thought Tuesdays would be a great day to put down a sensory path, put out the teaser, and then on Wednesdays when they had a break after school, they got out early, go out and explore, get outside, enjoy nature, and go find a park and a sensory path. And then we also did them again on Fridays, because Friday afternoons we put out the teaser, and then Saturday and Sunday people could go out with their families and explore. So that was the intentionality behind it. Those were the days we chose and the reasoning. Obviously for your areas it might be different, so you might choose different time frames. As far as materials go, it can vary. Like, I am not artistic at all. We happen to have some great youth who are very artistic in our department, who are willing to come out and help us with this. So you can see that jump path on the far left. I didn't draw that, I can guarantee it. But I learned from them as we went to make our lines extra thick and outline them. It just gave an extra pop of color. But you can do something as simple if you're short on time and you just want to do a quick one. Draw a line or some dashes or some hash marks or some stars, or trace your hand and do a handprint, or draw a little foot. You can be as creative as you want, or as simple as you want. That's the great thing about chalk. And of course, it's just, when it rains, it's going to wash away. So it makes it super easy. You can change up the themes if you want. So you can use tape. The floor gym tape that comes up nice and easily. It's a good one to put down, and it'll come up later without destroying the floor in your community center. You can use paper. If you go to Michael's or AC Moore or wherever, they have that textured paper, and you can do different textures and cut things out and put them on the wall for the kids to include that tactile aspect. You can cut them out into different shapes. You can do handprints and say, do wall push-ups in this space. So we've done a couple of different themes. We did, a garden theme. We had the kids, had them buzz like a bee in the garden, or jump the creek, or climb the vines. They did activities like crawling like a bug. We have done a superhero in training, where they get to fly or leap or kick. And then at the end we did strike your superhero pose. And then we have our imagination playgrounds that all have different themes. And one of them is a soccer playground. And so we did a soccer theme path by that playground, where they did high knees, or they had to dribble the ball and they had to dodge the defenders, and do some of those, I don't know what those movements are called, but where you have to, the dodging. And then we did an animal, where you hop like a bunny, or you stomp like an elephant, or you roar like a dragon. So those were just some of the fun. We did all of those out of chalk, but the tape would be another one. If you have extra money in your budget, you can purchase paths on Amazon. The sensorypath.com has some great theme ones, like this space theme one on the right came from the sensorypath.com. So they're not the cheapest, but they're like permanent stickers to your floor. They're not coming up. And they look really good, and they're bright and they're colorful. And then Pinterest has lots of examples of things that you can use. So if you're not sure, you're like, oh, I know I want to do it, but I don't know how. Pinterest is a great resource. We love Pinterest. So Tara, can we move to next slide, please? Fingers crossed, everybody, that this video is going to work. This is a path that Arlington County did this summer.
Yay.
Nice. You may as well just keep going since you're in there. See
Oh,
if it, as you can see, so it doesn't have to be a super elaborate or creative, like it doesn't have to be super fancy. It was great. They used the lines and then they had the instructions. So it was a fun way. And then the video shows people if they want to see what to do. Or the great thing about these is there's no wrong way to do it. So everybody can do it in a different way and it's still fun and it's still serving the purpose. So Kat, I think, is going to talk about pathway placement.
yeah, and how to use it to support inclusion in your programs, in your recreation programs, places and spaces. So
Sorry,
yeah,
you're good. Keep going.
okay, you sure?
Mhm.
So as inclusion coordinators, like inclusion is on the forefront of my mind always. And I'm always thinking of ways in order to better support my participants so they feel more included in our programs. And some of the best inclusion interventions or modifications to put in place are the ones that are seamless, the ones that you don't even know, that the general public who are looking into your program don't even know that they are specifically in place for a couple individuals, but in actuality benefit everyone. I'm sure that we could all think of a participant who benefits from inclusion support, and sometimes that inclusion support looks like being taken out of the group or away from the group, most likely to self-regulate or get themselves back in control of their mind and bodies. While this can be an effective practice, it tends to limit the inclusive opportunities for that participant, right? If you're constantly transitioning them or taking them out of the group, how are they supposed to experience an inclusive experience in your recreation programs? So by placing sensory pathways directly in your structure of your program, you are providing an inclusive intervention for participants that you don't have to remove them from the group in order to enjoy. As you can see from these pictures, two of these sensory pathways were very purposefully placed as an inclusion practice. The one on the left, is leading to a room where a program is about to happen. And we all know participants are really excited to come to our programs and to participate in what they're going to do. They can't wait to see you and their friends and what they're about to do in this program. And that excitement, as we talked about before, can lead to dysregulation or loss of control of oneself. So by having this sensory pathway leading to that doorway, leading to that program space, you're asking the participant to focus on grounding themselves and regulating themselves so they are ready to go into your program. Picture on the right is a sensory pathway leading to a drinking fountain. Obviously, someone identified that taking a water break can lead to dysregulation for some individuals, whether that's just the transition or the excitement of getting water. And so having a sensory pathway leading to the water fountain is a great way to help individuals regulate during this very exciting time of taking a break and getting water. Arlington County first placed a sensory pathway in our camps in 2019 when we had camps. And it was an idea that I had of I saw it on Facebook and I was like, we need this in our camps for self-regulation and inclusion practices. And one of my camps agreed to go along with my zany idea and put one in their camp location, in a particular location in their camp set up in their camp environment. And I think one of the great things that they did there is that they didn't introduce the sensory pathway to just the identified participants who we thought would benefit from this sensory pathway. We introduced it to the camp as a whole, because again, everybody gets dysregulated. Kids in general may not have the coping skills yet in order to self-regulate. It's not just the kids with disabilities, if you will, that need some self-regulation, that need some intervention. Everyone benefits from the proactivity of these sensory pathways. So they introduced it to everybody in the camp. They were like, hey, check this out. Not necessarily even saying hey, if you need to take a moment, or if you need a break, or it was like, there's this thing here, and you should check it out to see what happens when you go along this path. Of course, it was proactively used with participants identified for being benefiting of going through this pathway, and that was built into their day. It was something that they can earn. It became something that they wanted to earn. It became something that they wanted to bring a friend along with and were able to earn that or request that. It became a part of the staff's transitions where they would purposefully maybe leave the classroom a minute early so everybody could go down the sensory pathway as you transition to your next activity. Maybe they were coming from a really high energy activity and going to a really low energy activity and needed some sort of intervention to get the group back into some sort of homeostasis state of regulation. So they made this a part of their transitions. And what we found is that for the people that we identified benefiting from this support, it absolutely did. We were able to be proactive and avoid the crisis hourglass point in most cases. But other participants started to also request to go down the path. Other campers would just be like, hey, I want to go take a spin, if you will, down the sensory path. And it really became something that benefited the entire camp. That camp in particular was a very calm camp and really successful in the camp program. So successful, in fact, that we had a staff who worked at the original camp that we placed this sensory pathway be transferred to another camp for the latter half of the summer. And they loved what their sensory pathway at their original camp did for their camp program so much that they convinced their directors at the new camp setting that they were at that they needed one of these sensory pathways in their camp programs. So I didn't have to do the initiative this time of convincing people that the sensory pathway is a good idea, which was very nice. The staff had buy-in for it, and they put one in the new camp setting, and we saw similar results where everyone enjoyed it, everyone benefited from it, and inclusion became a little bit more seamless in those two camp programs. Moving forward, the plan when we have camp again will be that every camp has a sensory pathway, and we're going to continue placing them in parks as long as we can, because we've identified that not everybody at parks, like we place them at parks with playgrounds, but not everyone who goes to parks likes playground equipment. Sometimes they like things that are a little bit more grounding and a little bit more less risky, if you will. And these sensory pathways provide that really great inclusive opportunity in parks as well. And all of our kids, adults, teens, seniors need that break from the technology, as it's causing us so much stress in our lives right now. In fact, when Corey was talking about her seniors loving their Zumbas and all of that kind of stuff while placing a pathway in a park, my partner and I, two, I'm going to assume were senior citizens, stopped us and asked what we were doing, and then participated in the sensory pathway and had a whole bunch of fun. Corey, I don't know if you know this, but we kind of stole your strike a superhero pose. Thank you.
I love it.
And the pictures of them striking the superhero poses are amazing. So these pathways, like Corey said, benefit everybody.
Yeah, our park police have had a great time getting involved with the kids and running in, doing the courses with them, and putting on the capes and striking that pose at the end of it. So it's a fun, inclusive, it's intergenerational as well. So,
yeah,
which is wonderful.
Oh
yeah,
those things.
Forgot about those. Oh, we've talked about the paths. They're great. We love the paths. They're fantastic. But it doesn't do any good if your community doesn't know that you have these paths or where to find these paths, right? You go out, you do all this hard work to put them down, and nobody explores them because they don't know they're there. Or in my case, people go and explore them because they saw you putting them down, or they were just playing at the park and then they found them and they're like, wow, this is really cool. Let me try it. But you get more people there if you tell them where it is. So here are some ways that we have shared this information with our community. We did videos on social media. So we posted on Facebook and Instagram. And I think there might've been a link on Twitter too. I know it was on Facebook and Instagram. We put it out in our newsletters that go out to our community members as well. So Arlington placed clues leading up to the big reveal. So they, throughout the week they said, or a couple days earlier, they said, hey, check, be on the lookout for a sensory path coming, and put a clue about the park and where it was going to be. We used it as a way to also educate people about sensory paths and the benefits of it, or the benefits of just getting outside and exercising. So in some of our videos, we dropped in some little tidbits of knowledge as well. YouTube, if you have a YouTube channel, you can also place the videos on YouTube. I am not a movie editor by any means. I'm not a graphics person. But we were able to use pretty easy, free resources. Like I use Clipchamp. Kat has been using iMovie. I don't have an Apple, so I can't use iMovie. But Clipchamp was a really good one for us. We've used, Kat has used Adobe Premiere Rush. That one takes a subscription, but it still works well to help combine. We have done them where we partnered with a person on our team who does the video editing and does good videos. And they would come out and make videos for us. And then there were other weeks where they weren't available. So we took pictures, or we recorded short snippets on our phones, and then we combined them all together into a little video post to post on Facebook. And then of course we created a hashtag to go with it so that people would know about it. And we put the hashtag in chalk with the paths so that they would be like, oh, that's what they're talking about, make the connection. And we also put our, at PG Parks, our tag as well to remind people. So are there other softwares that y'all are familiar with that would be beneficial, or that you've used to publicize, or are there other ways that you think now's a good time to drop them in the chat? But share out if you have any other ways to publicize these for your community as well. Christy asked if anyone paints on trails or pathways. Yeah, so far they've all been temporary. We are pushing for some permanent ones in our parks. We haven't found the right material yet.
I need to brush up on my artistic abilities before I make anything permanent.
Well, and that's the great thing is, so yeah, if you're not artistic, there are ones that you can purchase and just put them down and it's like, good to go.
Yeah.
I like the stencils. We used a lot of stencils for like the feet. We use stencils to color in the feet. So I can't draw feet, but the stencils.
Hey, Corey.
Yes.
It's Becky.
Hey, Becky.
Hi, everybody. So I'm just curious. You may have said it and I just missed it, but like City of Greenbelt, we have our own channel for TV. So I feel like Park and Planning has something that goes out on the TV, or if they send it to the networks or whatever, but you can also put it on your website. And I don't know how your website works, but like I get your emails. So I'm thinking that if you put something out there as an event, and people have linked up to receive notifications when that event comes, they'll get that email as well. And some websites I know allow you to do like a text message even. So I'm just thinking that if you want to get more out there, not everyone has the social media sites,
right,
or access to YouTube or whatever. Maybe they don't want to go on it for whatever reason. So especially seniors, because I work with them too, I've been coming up with new ways to do it. And so some can do text message. So you might want to think about that maybe the next time if you guys have that resource.
I love that, Becky. I'm gonna have to chat with you a little bit later on how to make that happen a little more.
Something that I forgot to share with Corey is that we've also reached out to our civic associations and multifamily dwelling representatives so that neighborhood leadership can request us to place a sensory pathway in their neighborhood. And that's been super fun.
Awesome. And Callie says Splice has worked well to edit movies too. So that's another resource that I have not heard about. So thank you, Callie. See, this is why we do this, because we get to learn, gain some more resources. So excellent. All right, so I think we have one final video for you. And let's fingers crossed, hope it works.
So Corey, I think this is like a post.
This is one of the ones that Prince George's County did, where we put the path down, and then this was one of the videos that went out on Facebook to help let our community know where it was going to be, where it was going to be. And records of Prince George's County Department of Parks and Recreation were challenged by the Arlington County Super Squad to the Chalk Hop Challenge. We will be popping up at local parks throughout the county with sensory pathways for recreation breaks. Come accept the Chalk Hop Challenge and become a super wrecker yourself. Today we're at Somerset Park in Bowie. If you want the super wreckers to come to your area, give us a shout out on Facebook with the hashtag Chalk Hop Challenge and tell us your local park. I love his little super poses.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, and Becky said Facebook Live could be another option as well. I think it's a good one. I think our department has specific regulations about posting on our Facebook page, and everything has to go through our public affairs and marketing team. So we would send these to them and then they would post them. But other departments obviously have different regulations. So if you have the ability to do Facebook Live or to post them directly to Facebook, cuts down on that lag time as well. So excellent.
So I just wanted to reiterate that PG County has phenomenal artists that can lay down like these very elaborate and beautiful sensory pathways. And as mentioned, I am not a fabulous artist. And there's only me and one other individual that is going out every week to place pathways. So our pathways are really simple. We try to zhuzh them up as best as we can, but they are quite simple with, stick figure kind of style. So regardless of where you're at on like the human resources aspect or the artistic resources aspect, it doesn't matter, because like I believe in you and that you can put down these sensory pathways in your communities and recreation programming areas. So consider yourselves officially challenged to complete the Chalk Hop Challenge. We challenge you to gather a team of superheroes, super wreckers, super squads, whatever you want to call yourselves together, and start placing these sensory pathways in your recreation program area. This is already a regional movement and we would love to increase it. It started with Arlington County, trickled into PG County. PG County has challenged Frederick County.
Accepted.
And they accepted the challenge. So now it is your time, your hour, your day to accept the challenge. I feel like I'm in my superhero pose right now.
You should be. I know. We should have worn our capes.
We hope that you find benefit in this approach to have a more inclusive recreation programs, places and spaces, and to help your participants have fun while secretly self-regulating. We would love to hear about your progress and how you have accepted and fulfilled your Chalk Hop Challenge. So feel free to tag us at PG Parks, right? Or inclusion at ARL Parks Rec, so that we can, and of course hashtag Chalk Hop Challenge, so that we can keep this movement going and get this nationwide, because A, how cool would that be, and B, it's going to be so beneficial to so many people, the more people who are doing this, to help us get back on track after this crazy year and feel a little bit better.
So with that, we will entertain any questions that you might have before we have to wrap up. I know it's 1 o'clock, and so we don't want to hold you too past, but we are happy to answer any questions that.
Can I stop sharing so I can see faces?
Yeah, people have to turn their faces on, but sure.
I mean, I like seeing people.
Kat, what was your, it was at
ARL Parks Rec. Were there any questions in the chat that we should address?
I actually have a question for you guys.
Becky,
Becky
you're like
again.
the all-star.
Sorry, I always have questions.
I love it.
So earlier when I heard Corey, you say, hold on, I wrote this down. So you guys have regulations on your end for like social media and all that kind of stuff. What kind of bureaucracy did you have to go through to get these set up? Like you already said, the chalk will wash away with the rain, but I'm just curious of what avenues you had to go through to get it set up in the spaces.
I will say for us, like most people were really supportive in our department, which was fantastic. The biggest bureaucracy we had was getting them posted on Facebook.
Okay.
We had to make sure that whatever materials we were going to use were environmentally friendly. So because we're putting these in the park, so obviously we don't want something to wash off of the pavement and mess up the environment around it. So chalk was approved. Obviously, like there's safe spray paint. We haven't done more permanent ones yet. We are still looking into our options for more permanent ones.
Okay.
I'm on the fence about permanent ones. I love the idea of permanent ones, but I also like the temporary ones because you have the opportunity to change it up. So it's not always the same. Because once you run through a path, the kid goes to the park 3 times a week and they see the same path every 3 times they go, they get bored and they don't want to do it anymore. So changing it up helps to kind of keep it exciting and engaged, which is one thing I like. But I also, we don't always all have the time to go out 2 or 3 times a week to put down new paths in our park. So I'm looking for like more long-term sustainable options as well. So we checked with our parks guys just to make sure that they knew we were coming out to the parks and we were going to be putting stuff down. And that they were okay with it because we didn't want them to come behind us and like just wash it up right away. Or if they were doing specific maintenance somewhere that we needed to avoid. So those were a couple of other considerations that we had to focus on.
Thank you.
Can I jump in real quick to kind of answer Becky's question just from others' experience that I've had doing it as well?
Yes, Callie.
Absolutely. So we didn't have to do a whole lot. I was very easily able to get it approved just through my supervisor and our director. But in terms of long-term sustainability, because I know I'm definitely all about switching it up, but like you said, not everybody has all the time to do that. We've definitely considered reaching out to like local NHS societies or different scouts groups, and because there are a lot of groups that need volunteer projects, and kind of working with them to do it on a volunteer basis and like, help them design it, but they'd be the ones to really go out in the park and create it for us. So that's something we're looking into once things with COVID kind of settle down a little bit. But it's definitely something that we're looking to continue long-term.
That's a great idea, Callie. Awesome. All right. Any other questions for us today? Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much for coming and joining us today. We greatly appreciate it. And I think Sarah's going to close us out.
Yes, thank you so much, Corey and Catherine, for such an informative and engaging presentation. Awesome job. And thank you to all of our attendees for your attention and participation in today's webinar, and just for your patience while we kind of navigated all those Zoom issues we had at the beginning. But it seems to be smoothing itself out. So if you guys go on with your day, good luck with that. But following today's session, you will receive an online evaluation, so please complete this information as it assists us in providing training and educational content that are relevant to you and your organizations. So if you haven't done so already, please visit the MRPA website and register to attend our upcoming Lunch and Learn sessions. We have one coming up on Thursday, February 4th at noon. It's experience design for the recreation and event professional. It's session 1 of a 2-part series, and the speaker is Annie Frizzoli of Creating Community LLC. And then on Wednesday, February 24th at noon, we have Don't You Forget About Me, Inclusion Are You Really In? And the presenters are Mary Beth Dugan and Genevieve. I think she's on here today. So Genevieve Jene, she'll be presenting on February 24th. So take a look at the MRPA website. And thanks again for joining us today. We hope to see you next time.